Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video, and today we are back to doing some league racing on iRacing. So it's been a while since the last league racing championship I've done, but we are taking part in the RTA Virtual Motorsport LMP2 Cup, and as the name suggests, this is a championship using the Dallara P217 LMP2 car. And having a quick look at the calendar, we're starting off here today for round 1 in Portimão, going down to Imola, Spa, Le Mans, Silverstone, Daytona, Road Atlanta, and then finishing off in Brazil at Interlagos. So a very good calendar, a lot of iconic tracks there. Some I'm looking forward to a lot, such as Portimão here today, and then Silverstone and Interlagos. I enjoy driving very much, and then some others like Le Mans, Road Atlanta, are tracks that I haven't driven a lot in the past, and anytime I have driven them, they haven't really gone too well for me. But that's all further down the line over the next coming weeks. But before we get started here, we're currently in qualifying, but taking a quick look at the format for this championship. Starts off with a 15-minute open qualifying session, so 15 minutes to do your best lap with all the other cars out on track at the same time, as you can see here. Then that's followed by a 10-minute heat race 1 with the grid set by qualifying obviously. Then a second race heat 2 with the grid set with the results from heat 1. And then finally a 20-minute feature race with the grid set from the results of heat 2, with the exception of the top 8 being inverted. So if you win race 2, then you will start the third race from 8. And then if you finish 8 in the race 2, you will start from pole in the final race. But with all that out of the way, then we're here at the end of our first outlap at the start of qualifying, and as you can see, traffic seems to be a bit of an issue here at the moment out of the second last corner, and I pulled to the right hand side to try and get a bit of space so I can try and do somewhat of a decent lap without too much traffic. And as we skip ahead onto that lap, then going through turn 7 up to turn 8 of Samsung, we just clipped the yellow paint on the edge of the track and lose the back end there. So with the traffic ahead and with that time lapse, I decided to just back out of that lap, try and get a bit of a gap and prepare for a new flying lap, which we're starting now, heading down the hill into turn 1. Very tricky in the rain, braking nice and early. Unfortunately not early enough, as we run a bit too wide, go off track and invalidate that lap. So that lap is out the window now as well, and we're going to have to try and prepare to go again. And we do that, but this is just starting that lap, and on the exit of the final turn just run a bit too wide, lose the car on the slippery outside part of the track, and once again another lap that isn't going to be anyway good for us. So once again down into turn 1 for yet another lap, and once again we run a bit too wide, and once again we invalidate our lap. And with about 3.5 minutes left on the clock, we have time to do one more lap as we just pull out of the way of the car there, Peter McCann, on a flying lap so that we don't impede him. But then out of turn 4 we get on the outside wet part, the curb again. We spin into the wall, and you can see here
we got damage on the front end.
We have got damage, so we're going to have to go back to the pits, and unfortunately that means that we're not going to have time to finish this flying lap. But this is the out lap, and you can see that we're about 5.5 seconds up on our previous best lap, which is the one that we aborted on. So a lot of time that could have been found on those laps, and in the end we finished down in P30, second last. There was a few drivers that didn't get a proper lap in, and we were one of them. So maybe with the rain, starting at the back might be a good place to start, because we can take it nice and easy and try and avoid all the chaos. So as we're coming out of the final turn, then getting ready for the lights to go green and get heat 1 underway. From P30, so 2 cars behind us, I thought there was only one, as the red and yellow car of Jamal there seems to have got a bit of a jump start, but the lights go green now and we are underway. And you can barely see anything through the spray of all the cars ahead of us, so down the hill into turn 1, lifting off and braking nice and early, just to try and not run into the back of anyone, but that allows the car there to go down our inside, as there's a few cars spinning through turn 1, turn 2, so made up a few positions there as there's another car facing the wrong way, and then taking it nice and easy through turn 3 and then up the hill through turn 4, taking a nice wide line, taking the racing line where the grip is when the track is wet like this. So that's something to mention, that in this championship rain is possible, not going to be rain in every race, but it does add a bit of excitement to it, and this is actually my first proper race in the wet. Though the rain has been on iRacing for quite a while now, but the series that I've done, I've tried to avoid it at all costs because I just wasn't comfortable with it. In all honesty, in this car with the traction control, it's actually pretty easy to drive in the wet and really fun to just try and find the wet lines, as we did there out of turn 8. Got a better run than, I think that's David ahead of us in the black and white car who ran a bit wide there, but unfortunately into that left hand we weren't able to get a move done, but then into this right hander off Portimão, he runs a bit wide and we managed to get the move done. Into the final part of the lap then, two cars facing the wrong way there on the left hand side, so another few positions gained, and all in all this first lap I'm happy to have just survived it really, and I nearly jinxed it there as there's a car spinning out of the second to last turn. We run wide to avoid that, and that allows Jason Smith in that blue car that is now ahead of us to get past. But we're coming on to the pit straight with all the spray. Jason is ahead of us. We pull to the right to try and get for a move. I didn't see that car that was after crashing on the right hand side, and we narrowly avoid a massive collision there. I really don't know how we managed to avoid that. Was more good luck than good judgment really, and yeah, just going to have a look at the replay of it here now. It's a slow-mo from the chase cam off my car, and you can just see how close we are going to be to, I think it was Gary Corcoran who was after having the crash there, and we were very lucky that there wasn't any netcode there that made us crash into his car. And just a still now from my onboard, and I looked at my replay in slow motion, and this was the first time that I could have seen the car through the spray. So very last minute, and if we had been any further to the right hand side, I don't think we would have been able to avoid a crash there. And then once again another camera angle, just seeing how close it was, and then having a look at what caused that. You can see, just like we did in qualifying, Gary goes onto the curb a bit too much, unsettles the back of the car, and he spins into the pit lane wall, and his race is pretty much over there. Well, back on board with us now, and some of you might remember from the Motorsport Ireland F4 Championship, I had issues with my game stuttering, and if you look now you can really tell that it's happening again, unfortunately, and in the wet and just at the start of this race it's going to be tricky to overcome that, but we're actually not going to have to overcome it, because coming out of turn 8 my PC and game just froze for a couple of seconds. The sound was still going, and when the video comes back we end up crashing into the right hand side, and actually once the game froze I turned to the right hand side, so if my car was still moving I would go off the track and not be in anyone's way. But because of that, and since there's 2 more races to go, I decided to retire from this race so I could restart my PC and we would have proper video and everything would be working properly for the next 2 races. So that's what I did, and looking at the results then for Heat 1, won by Michael Donahue, a pretty convincing victory of about 6.5 seconds, and we finished dead last with our DNF. So for Heat 2 that means we're going to start from the very back of the grid, and just like the last race we're going to have to try and work our way through the pack to hopefully try and get some sort of decent result and a good starting position for the final race. So getting ready to go here for Heat 2 from the very back of the grid down in P29, and the lights go green and we are underway here in Portimão. Once again having to deal with the spray of every other car on the grid ahead of us down the hill into turn 1, and once again taking it nice and easy, because after Heat 1 you wouldn't know what could be in front of you once you get through the spray and who could be facing the wrong way in front of you. But through turn 2 the kink and then into the hairpin of turn 3 we have a look around the outside of Gary Corcoran, who we narrowly avoided in that close shave in the heat race, and then through turn 4 tried to get a move down the inside, but much better grip on the outside, and we stay in P29 for now, as down into the hairpin of turn 6. Once again, no incidents on this occasion. And now fast forward through the rest of lap 1, because not really anything else happened. There wasn't anybody who spun on the first lap this time, so everybody was much better behaved. But coming through the final turn, I underestimated how much grip there was going to be, and we run wide onto the runoff. Luckily we managed to get back onto the track safely and don't end up like we did in qualifying, or like Gary in the previous race, and we stay facing in the right direction. And then into turn 1, a few cars ahead, running off, going a bit too wide, so we move up one position there, up into P28. And then as we fast forward again another bit on this lap, down into the hairpin, the yellow car there of Jonathan Hollywood going very slow. I think he had some kind of a spin out of turn 4, so he didn't have a lot of speed going down into the hairpin, and we managed to move up yet another position up into, I believe that is now P27. Finley Melvin having a bit of an issue there on the outside, so we get up another position. And then into the third last corner, Dermot Toomey is bouncing around a bit. I presume that's just the connection, but he did run a bit wide there, allowed Gary to get past, and now hopefully we can try and do the same on the pit straight. Out of the second last turn, don't get the best exit, as there's a car there off the track on the right hand side, and then out of the final turn onto the straight, we get a really good run compared to Dermot, but unfortunately it was almost a too good of a run, and we had to back out to avoid running into the back of him. We still get alongside down into turn 1, we're on the right hand side, so no spray, but I didn't have the confidence to brake too late. Finley, however, did have the confidence down our inside, and yeah, he, in my opinion, he just went in a bit too deep. I left him lots of room on the inside, I thought, and he tried to carry the car out to the outside down to the racing line, and he wasn't clear of my car, and I ended up unfortunately spinning him around. So unfortunate incident there, but luckily for us we managed to not get any damage from that and not go for a spin or anything. As through that turn there, Simon Hutchinson doesn't have a front end of his car, so we move up into, I think that's P22, and then with just under 4 minutes of the race left, we're still behind Dermot, who, if we had got a better line a couple of laps ago, we would have been ahead of him, but unfortunately we're still behind him, and the two of us were actually kind of similar pace, and we managed to catch up to Jamal, who is 2 cars ahead of me, which is our fastest lap of the session there, as pulled to the right hand side to try and get out of the spray so I can try and get a braking point into turn 1. Dermot, however, he misses his braking point, runs wide, and we managed to move up another place from somebody else's mistake. I'm going to stay on board for the rest of this lap now, because Jamal ahead, I was putting a lot of pressure on him. Well, I don't think I was putting too much pressure on him, but he seemed to be doing a lot of defending for no reason. Down to the hairpin, I pulled to the left just to stay out of the spray, and he defends it, so he must have been expecting me to go for a dive from way too far back. If I had went for a move there, definitely would have ended in a collision, and if somebody went for a dive like that on me, I wouldn't be too happy about it. And then once again into Samson, turn 8. Maybe that was his racing line, but to me it seemed like he stayed very much to the right hand side in what looked kind of like a defensive manoeuvre. Through the left hander there, wanted to take the outside line because that's where more grip is, but ran a bit too wide before switching back to the left hand side for the outside line of the double right hander. Through this long left then, Jamal taking what would be the dry racing line, and you can see how much more speed we could carry there by taking the racing line on the outside. Into the second last corner then, we're very close, once again taking a wider line than Jamal, trying to get a good exit so we could try and get a move down into turn 1. Unfortunately, not our best run through the second last turn and into the last turn, but again, taking the outside line we get a much bit better run, was a bit nervous there. I could have kept my foot in it, but I didn't want to have another situation like I did with Dermot. But we still have more speed. Pulled to the right hand side. Jamal did squeeze it a bit there, but it's all fair racing. And he holds position into turn 1. Well, unfortunately for him, he runs a bit too wide onto the curb, unsettled the rear like we see many times during this race, the last race, and in qualifying. And he spins off to the right hand side. And the pressure that we were applying eventually pays off, and we get the move done. And then coming out of the final turn for the final lap, we started in P29, moved up 9 positions, and we're going to finish Heat 2 in P20, and we're going to start the feature race from P20 as well.
Chicken flag.
So looking at the results then, Michael Donoghue once again won this race. Again, pretty convincing victory by just over 5 seconds. And as we saw, I finished down in P20, about 39 seconds, or 37 seconds rather, from the lead, and about 7 seconds from Gary ahead. So considering where we started and considering there was a lot less incidents than in Heat 1, very happy to get up into P20 and get a few points in Heat 2. So as we get ready to go green for the final time here in Portimão from P20, so the furthest we started forward in any of these races means there's less spray ahead of us, but there's more cars behind us that could potentially run into the back of us. That's something you can't really worry about as we run down into turn 1. Being a lot more aggressive this time than we have been in the first 2 races, and we may have a big contact there side to side with the car that was our inside. I'm not sure who that was, but luckily we don't get any damage from that, and we only lose the 1 position to Tony Stack, who is now ahead of us. And now we skip forward down to the hairpin. Take a bit of a defensive line to protect from anybody that might have a go down our inside. But unfortunately we carry a bit too much speed, run out wide onto the slippery painted outside part of the track. Lose 1 position to David, who's now ahead of us, and we managed to hold our position from Gary, who tried to have a go at us through the kink there. That's now through turn 8 of Samson, trying to get a good exit so we can power on, forget about the open a few turns that haven't really gone the way we would have liked, but at least we're still in the race. As through the double right hander, you can see in the mirror Finley, he goes for a move there. Again, just like in Heat 2, he goes down our inside, and once again I feel like it was a bit of a late move and it wasn't really on, and unfortunately for him he goes for a spin. But looking at freeze frame here now, just the angle he was going at and the speed he was taking, there was room for another car on my inside, but with his speed and his angle, as I said, it wasn't going to work out. And once again, luckily for us, we come off the better of that, and it doesn't affect our race. And unfortunately for Finley, he once again is sent for a spin. As at the end of lap 1 there, you could see a car also on the right hand side. That was, I think it was Kevin Joyce, who ended up pulling into the pits. He had some kind of an incident, I think. Not really too sure, but we get the position there. As through turn 1 and 2, another car off on the right hand side, so up another place. As David ahead of us, he ran a bit wide there and could have tried to have him move through that sequence of corners, but I was more focused on the car that was off the track and making sure he wasn't going to come back onto the track and have to avoid. Down into the hairpin on the left hand side, out of spray. This time, unlike the last lap, pulling back to the racing line so we can get a better line out of the corner, get a really good exit there, and could almost have a go at David ahead. We have a bit of a look down the inside of turn 7, make a big contact, go for a little bit of a moment, but luckily we managed to hold it and stay facing the right direction, and luckily David does as well. And then out of turn 8 we get a really bad exit because of our poor line from that contact. Gary has a bit of a look, but he wasn't able to get past because my car was kind of kept it in the middle of the track, more so because I was struggling to get traction out of that turn. Meant that we were able to stay ahead for now, and then skipping ahead the end of the lap. Out of the final turn we run a bit wide once again onto the painted part of the track. Have to come fully off the throttle so we don't end up having a crash, and
Clear.
the extra momentum from Gary taking the proper racing line means he's able to get past us on the run down into turn 1. But he's not going to stay ahead of us for long, as through the kink of turn 2 into turn 3, he runs a bit wide out onto the curb, loses the car and spins off into the gravel. So we lost that position for not even 10 seconds really, and we moved back up a place. But now we're coming under pressure from Evan Walsh behind, who I believe is probably a bit quicker than us, and down into the hairpin. He's on the left hand side, a bit like us, probably just trying to put the pressure on and stay out of the spray and pick his braking zone. As on the next lap there, through turn 4, he gets a much better run and actually hits into the back just a small bit. I was prepared to give up the position here down into the hairpin. He was on the right hand side, and if he had gone for the dive, I would have allowed him to have a position and then tried to follow him on to the cars ahead of us and try and catch up with them. But then through this double right hander, he gets a much better run through the left hander beforehand, and I'm leaving at the inside line to get ahead of us as we come from behind. And hopefully we can try and just stay with him and lead the cars up to the cars ahead. And we set our fastest lap of the race. There was a car that pitted there, so we moved up another position. But into turn 1, we just stay on the left hand side a bit too much, get a wheel on the white painted line and just miss our braking point there. So lose a bit of time, and then a couple of laps later, car there on the left hand side, CJ O'Sullivan, after having a spin, so we move up another position. And then a bit later on in that lap, Adam McNamara has a bit of an issue through that double right hander, and we move up yet another place. So with about a minute and a half left on the pit straight, we're just behind Tony Stack ahead, and down into turn 1 he's going to do like we did. He just clips the curb or the white line, runs a bit wide, as does another car ahead. And Tony, he comes back onto the track there, just about leaves enough room through the kink of turn 2 and managed to sneak past there. So very close there. I thought we were going to have a collision, but we managed to make up 2 places, and a bit flustered by that we run off the track. Don't get a great exit down the hill into the hairpin, but luckily Tony wasn't close enough behind us to retake the position, and we move up 2 more places into P9. And that is where we ended up staying. We've come through the final turn for the final time in round 1 to get a very good result of P9, having started down in P20. Gained 11 positions there, and really all that is down to just keeping it clean and taking the opportunities when they came.
Good job, very good job.
So it was Jordan Kelly who won the race from P6, followed by Michael Donoghue in second, the winner of the first 2 races. So very good race and a debut for Michael Donoghue in RTA. And then ourselves down in P9, almost a minute behind the leader, so just shows that there is still a lot of work to do to try and get up with the top drivers in this championship. But considering it was my first proper race in the LMP2 car and in the wet conditions, I am very happy with that result. So looking at the standings then after round 1, with those 2 race wins, Michael O'Donoghue leads the championship ahead of Jordan Kelly and Dylan McClemens, both 6 points behind the championship leader. Then we're down in P18 with 19 points in total, and not a lot separating a lot of drivers down kind of this area of the championship standings. The way RTA works as well is that for any incidents during races, you get penalty points, and they are actually points taken away from your championship total. So you can see there, Adam and Jason ahead of us both have minus 15 points. So they should be further up, but because of incidents, they've got those deductions, and that'll be something we will be hoping to avoid for the duration of this season, and hopefully try and get. I think we're going to aim for a top 15 finish in the standings over the course of the championship. But that is it for round 1 of the RTA LMP2 Championship. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. And until the next one, which will be in Imola next week. Thanks for watching. See you then.